Here's Jeff Patterson, fresh back from Alaska cruise in time for the Calder Cup final. How are you, Jeff?
I'm good. I saw the video there, and I did see the video of the two little cubs. It was incredible at Whistler. And let me just say, we had a great time in Alaska. It reminded me a lot, though, of a 7-day journey up the Sea to Sky Highway. And I say that noting that that's one of the great drives in the world on a beautiful sunny day with the ocean and the mountains and the snow peaks and everything else. So I don't ever want to take that for granted, but that's kind of what it reminded me of. Was it's a lot of the same scenery, but I love the reaction of people that we met from around the world that were just blown away. They couldn't believe that all of this was, right here, basically in our backyard. So it was kind of cool starting and ending a cruise like that here in Vancouver. People were making their flight plans on the last day, and we were like, we'll be home in 20 minutes. And so there's very much an ease of access to cruising out of Vancouver.
Well, and a good reminder to enjoy and appreciate what we have. We're lucky that us two driving home, looking at the North Shore Mountains as we drive across the bridge. And you do have to pinch yourself and remind yourself where we live. It's pretty spectacular.
It's a pretty good view over the Burrard Street Bridge as well, out onto the ocean, Blake. All right. You want to get...
Look at mountains.
Mm-hmm. You're such a localist. All right. So LeBrun says the Canucks took another tour around the league on Elias and sounds like they're keeping him. Jeff, your reaction to that?
Yeah, not surprised. Just based on what we heard from Jim Rutherford the last time that he opened his mouth, and Adam Foote at his introductory press conference where, he sort of softened his stance on Elias, talked about wanting to, find that ability to bring out the best and get that real Elias Pettersson back. And so, I just took my cues from them, and that was a couple of weeks back now, that sounded like they were putting plans in place to have him, to monitor him over the summer months and have him ready to go in tip-top shape at training camp. Now, a lot of that's going to be on Elias Pettersson, obviously, to hold up his end of the bargain to be in tip-top shape come camp time, because we know that was an issue last year, and it kind of put him behind the 8 ball, and he never caught up. So, not surprised, knowing that there is a ticking timeline towards trade protection, that they would circle back on some of their potential trade partners. But ultimately, I've felt all along here that there's such uncertainty in a trade. Now, there's a ton of uncertainty with Elias Pettersson and what they've got in this player right now, but it's just hard to imagine that trading him, you would get something in return that had the potential to be a 100-point scorer that he's already been before the age of 25. And so I think they're sort of holding out all hope that they can rehabilitate this player, that last season didn't sit well with him. And, we know Elias by now. Like, he's not an open book. And so who really knows, how he processes a season in which he scores 15 times and 45 points, and his year has ended a month before the end of the regular season. But I hope that there's some soul searching there on his part, and that he is driven to come back and prove people wrong and prove to them that, he can be this guy that was a rookie of the year, an all-star, a 100-point player. Like, all that's on his resume. It's there. It's in there. Let's hopefully uses some of that as motivation to come back and be as good or close to as good as he's ever been.
Variation of a poll question, which we'll ask you in a second here. But, if that's the case, if they're going to go with Elias Pettersson, do you then need to complement him with something that he isn't? In other words, and you've probably heard me ballyhoo Marco Rossi before, but is that the right fit for the Vancouver Canucks, given what we're watching in the playoffs here? Do you need to make sure that there is more size? And it's fine. It's tough to find size and production, but you know what I mean? That if you're going to go down this road with Patterson and hope that he's back, do you need something that is different than him behind him as the two center?
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of that is based on his subpar performance in the playoffs a year ago. And that's really all we've got to go off. I know that the first time he saw playoff hockey in the bubble, he produced, but that was the bubble. And that'll never happen again. And second time around was a continuation of what we saw down the stretch from him last year after signing the contract, and it wasn't anywhere close to good enough. And then I watched these playoffs, and I look at a Leon Draisaitl, and guess what? Leon plays in the division, and he's not going anywhere. And I know that Leon Draisaitl's don't grow on trees, but yes, I think the Vancouver Canucks, to sort of morph this into the discussion about your poll question, they need some guys that are just flat out hard to play against and can do it at the highest level possible. And Draisaitl is an incredible specimen. I mean, he just is. But, you know, I look at Florida, and obviously there's a ton of talk around Sam Bennett and the way that he approaches the game. Alex Barkov, you know, isn't ferocious, but he's just
sturdy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's not just Elias Pettersson. Like, this isn't a team in its top six right now that has a ton of size, but beyond that, it doesn't have a ton of fire. And so the idea of Elias Pettersson and Marco Rossi, like, that might get you to the playoffs, but do I truly believe that you could bank on a 1-2 combo there down the middle to take this team far in the playoffs? I think that seems like a stretch right now. And that's not to say it couldn't happen, but just when I look around the National Hockey League and I see guys that are hell-bent on hurting opponents, like, it's win at all costs when you get to this level. And I've had some time here overnight to think about this and help me out. I'm curious to get your thoughts too. Which is more surprising ultimately now? The fact that Leon Draisaitl had never scored a playoff overtime goal prior to this year, or the fact that now nobody has ever scored more overtime winners in a single playoff year than he has? Like, how do you go from 0 to 100 like
he's built for it?
But he is. And the more I watch him, and look, this is not any slight on McDavid. I mean, McDavid's incredible. You know, of this generation, he's the best player there is. But there's just something about Draisaitl being cut out for playoff hockey and having that mean streak, and, you know, you can see at times the snarl, and I think a lot of that is missing from the Vancouver Canucks, and we don't know ultimately how their roster is going to be assembled for training camp next year. But the guys that they do have under contract right now, Elias Pettersson, Jake DeBrusk, Connor Garland, you know, those are players in their top six that I don't think strike fear into opponents in a best 4 out of 7 playoff matchup.
Name to consider here as we're talking about playoff performers, guys with size, guys who would pair well with Elias Pettersson. Alex Tuch in Buffalo. Big guy, can move, forechecker. Bit of an ultimatum there with the Sabres. He's going to in his final year. They either want to extend him or they're going to move him. Who knows how he has been scarred by the losing in Buffalo, coming from a winning program in Vegas. Of course, he was part of the Jack Eichel trade. Now, he is from those parts. I believe he's from Syracuse, so not far from Buffalo, upstate Western New York. His wife went to BCIT. His wife lived here at one point. I don't know if she's from Vancouver or from BC, but she has roots in this community, and he's available. That's an interesting name that has come up this week. Jeff?
Yeah, I've always appreciated the way that he approaches the game and the physical tools that he has. And, you know, this is a guy that broke into the National Hockey League in Minnesota, then went to Vegas, so he has bounced around. He's played in the West before. You're right. I think we're all waiting for shoes to start dropping in Buffalo here, and it is incredible. And maybe it's the fact that Abbotsford has covered some of the ground of the month of May, and the fact that I was away for a week as well. You lose track of time. Like, we're 2 weeks from the draft today. As I speak to you, we're 2 weeks from the NHL draft, and people are expecting fireworks, and people are expecting fireworks from the Vancouver Canucks. So I saw there was a World Cup countdown clock. We maybe should have our own countdown clock to the NHL draft and the trading. And look, we saw Anaheim and the Rangers get things going, so trades can happen now and hopefully will continue over the next couple of weeks here. But no, I mean, Alex Tuch is a proven goal scorer with size and a guy that has a little bit of an edge to his game as well. So, yeah, without a doubt, like, if there is a path, then I know that the Canucks have been linked to basically the entire top half of the Buffalo Sabres roster. But if they're playing let's make a deal with the Buffalo Sabres, absolutely. I think it would serve them well to be kicking tires and kicking them pretty heavily on a guy like Alex Tuch.
Do you think that what we've just talked about here over the last few minutes is part of the reason why Brock Besser and Pius Suter have not been really tied back to the Vancouver Canucks? Do they just not see those guys as, if you're going to commit long-term, and you're going to have to commit long-term to both of them, they're just not guys that we're going to win with in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think there have been enough breadcrumbs on the Besser file here that for whatever reason, this management group is, and has been for a while, prepared to move off that player. And it's unfortunate. We all know Brock. We like Brock. Has been a lifelong Canuck to this point. But it feels like, and in some of his late season comments, it felt like he had turned the page as well, sort of coming to the realization that there just wasn't a deal to be had there. The reports on Suter are that the Canucks continue to be interested, but it sounds like the message from the Suter camp is that, they're shooting for the moon. And why wouldn't they? You don't get opportunities to be a free agent often. This is a guy that, as we know, signed with the Canucks late in the summer and sort of missed the opportunity maybe a little bit, or maybe there were just too many doubters in hockey around him back then. But whatever the case, he's positioned himself well. He took full advantage of the opportunities he had in his platform year. And if the messaging from his camp is that, whatever they're looking for starts with a 4 or trying to push even higher than that, then I just think the Vancouver Canucks are a little bit wary. I think they realized that last year was going to be the outlier for Pius Suter, who is highly skilled and valuable and malleable and versatile and all those things. I got nothing bad to say about Pius Suter, but I think the Vancouver Canucks are a little hesitant at something that starts with a 4. So if that means he goes to the open market, is he going to find that there? I'm guessing he hopes so, but he may also find that there are some other teams that are a little hesitant at that price point, and then maybe the Canucks do have a chance to double back. So we'll see where it goes. But the fact that basically 2.5 weeks from July 1st, nothing has been done on either one of those fronts tells me that it's unlikely that you'll see an extension for either of those players with the Vancouver Canucks before the July 1st free agent window.
Yeah, and if it's an outlier season for Suter offensively, I think many can understand that. He was their most used penalty-killing forward, Jeff, and as you know, that penalty-killing unit was probably one of the best things about the
For sure.
Well, it's a great utility club. You just can't overpay for that, right?
Well, okay, but, Dollywell saying their number starts with 3. Like, in what world do they think he's going to sign for 3 in this market when people have cap space and when his contract projections are closer to 5.
But if he signs with a good team, he's not going to be a top 6 guy. He's likely to get slotted in as a third-line center. Now, we've seen he's able to play a little bit higher than that, but I don't think teams are going out there thinking that he's the answer as a 2C and the price that comes along with a legitimate second-line center. And so, the truth is out there somewhere, and I guess we'll find out ultimately where he lands. But he's put himself in a position now where he can be selective as a free agent, that it's not just about the money, but it's also about a location and if he can get some term. And so, there are a number of factors at play here, but I still think the hockey world sees the 25 goals that he scored, but probably thinks of him as closer to a 15 to 18 goal guy who brings value in other areas, and penalty kill is certainly one of them.
The Canucks top brass, Rutherford and Alvin, skipped the NHL scouting combine to surprise amongst their peers. Does that tell you something about how they regard this 15th overall pick, Jeff, and that they're not going to use it?
I'm not surprised Jim Rutherford didn't go. I would need to have somebody show me a year in which he attended the combine at the helm of the Canucks. I just from team videos that they've put out in years gone by, it's been a lot of Todd Harvey and Cammy Granato and others. A little surprised that the general manager, just knowing that his peers are all going to be there, and forget the combine itself, but dinner meetings and chance to start to lay some of the groundwork for these trades that we expect. I would have thought that a general manager at the very least would have made an appearance there, but put me firmly in the camp, and I don't think I'm alone, that doesn't expect the Canucks to use that 15th pick, but you still have to do the legwork. You still have to do the homework, even in those years where you've already traded your first rounder. You've got scouts out there looking at the top of the draft on the occasion that a deal comes and you wind up back in the first round with a pick. So mildly surprised, not so much on the Rutherford front, but a little more so that Patrick Alvin wasn't there. But hey, this practice facility isn't going to find a home for itself. And if he's part of these important tours around town and all of the recreation facilities that Vancouver offers, then you can't be in 2 places at once. That much I do know for certain.
You're a Vancouverite, so do you have a preference? South Burnaby, Britannia, Peony?
Well, I'm a North Vancouverite, so I'd be all over the Agrodome just in terms of logistics. But this idea of them sharing a practice facility with the PWHL team, to me, completely contradicts the idea of having a practice facility in the first place if you're sharing it with another team, and the women's team already has dibs. Like, they've made the announcement that is their practice facility. So who gets the preferential ice time? What if they're both at home and needing their practice facility? Of course, practice facility isn't just for the Canucks, but usually visiting NHL teams would use that ice for their own practice as well. So the idea of sharing on that front doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And ultimately, I don't think the Agrodome, I haven't been in it for a few years, but I remember playing there as a kid myself, and one of the warmest buildings I had ever been in.
It was worst ice in the Lower Mainland, but they're
now
going to
I
change
have
the
to
ice plans.
assume, I have to assume that the upgrades are coming there that'll address some of that. But no, I mean, look, I've seen the tours that have been done here. I've never been to Rosemary Brown, but it looks like a beautiful
nice, yeah.
brand new facility. The one that makes sense to me, but making sense to me and ultimately making it work, like Britannia, it's an area of town that needs a spruce up. There's opportunities here, I think, to upgrade the facilities there for the Canucks to slide in. It's close enough to their downtown facility that would make for the training staff to move equipment and those types of things back and forth would make it easy. I just wonder, but it's been there forever, and so have the Canucks, and nothing's been done on that front. So who knows where this ultimately winds up? But when you hear the commish on national television banging the drum for the importance of said facilities, this isn't a story that's going away anytime soon.
Is there any world where they could just buy a community? I was thinking about this yesterday. Is there any world where they could just go to either the city of Vancouver, say with the Kerrisdale Arena, or North Vancouver with like Karen Magnuson or whatever, and just say, here's a big fat check. We just want to buy everything here.
But they don't want to write that check is the problem. I mean, maybe as long as the city had access to it for their own programs, I think the answer could be yes. But again, I don't think this owner wants to write that check.
Well, I mean, it's getting closer and closer to the realization that a check has to be written here in some way, shape, or form. So if location is such an issue and if exclusivity is such an issue, I just wonder whether you can find some politicians who might be able to spin it like, hey, look at all the revenue we're bringing in from the Vancouver Canucks because we sold this facility.
If there was community use attached to it as well, right. Yeah, I think it's possible.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Lastly, Jeff, the Abbotsford Canucks get going. Calder Cup final, Game 1 tonight from Charlotte against the Checkers. We'll have coverage, of course, with Rinkwide Vancouver. You'll be on the post game. But a thought or two going into this series for the baby Canucks and a chance to lift a trophy for the first time in 10 years.
Well, first of all, it's just good that they're getting going finally. Charlotte hasn't played a game in 10 days. It's been the better part of a week, Sunday, since Abbotsford eliminated Texas. Well, I was away, but I was following along, certainly, and excited to be able to come back and continue to work their postseason run here. Abbotsford, as we've talked about through their playoff run, when they're at their best, it's generally low scoring, it's tight checking, it's not trading chances. Well, all of a sudden, you look at this Charlotte team, guys, they have one player in the top 18 in playoff scoring in the American Hockey League, and they're in the final. Like, they've played more hockey than just about everybody, and they've got one guy, John Leonard, a journeyman pro, but he leads them. And otherwise, it is like when we talk about teams scoring by committee, that is Charlotte. But what Charlotte doesn't do is give you anything. They're 10-2. They're coming into the series on an 8-game run, even though they haven't played in 10 days. So we'll see if that hurts them in any way. But Capo Kakkonen, guy that certainly has played in the National Hockey League, his story statistically just about as good or better than Artur Silov's here. So it looks like it's going to be a battle of goaltenders. Kakkonen, he's on an 8-game win streak like the team. He's given up more than 2 goals once in that 8-game run. So they just shut you down and shut you out. So, can Abbotsford generate enough offense to win these low-scoring games? Yeah, I think they can. And certainly they seem like they've got a few guys, a little more explosive offensively, whether it's Linus Karlsson. Archie Baines obviously has come into his own here later in that Texas series. Curious case of Sammy Blais, who still hasn't scored since the opening round, but they're still in here, and tonight's a new night for him. I will say this, that it is wild to me that the Stanley Cup final is 4 games deep now. And the AHL final is just getting underway. And I was talking to somebody yesterday who reminded me that Canucks summer development camp is generally right out of the NHL draft.
Yes.
So as we established, we're 2 weeks away from the draft. If the Calder Cup final goes the distance, goes full 7 games, it'll go 2 days before the NHL draft. There is a world in which Canuck prospects could play for the Calder Cup and attend summer development camp in the same week. Although I would like to think that the guys on this run in Abbey this year, like Kudratsev and Lekermaki, I would hope that they would get a pass from having to attend
I think so.
A summer development camp. But that's just the nature of the beast. When you play into the 3rd week of June, that sort of summer business picks up pretty quickly. And so, they're going to go from Canucks being in the chance to win the Calder Cup to the Canucks showing off that next wave of prospects at their summer development camp at a yet-to-be-determined location. It's probably going to be out at UBC, but we'll have to wait and see for all of the...
It's probably the practice rink.
Yeah, no, exactly. One of these years it will be the practice rink. Who do you have with you tonight, Jeff?
Tyson Cole's going to sit in with me as he did with Irf, and then Irf's going to be with me on the weekend and through the series, and we've got Dave Hall, and so, ramping it up as you would expect. A cast of thousands for a championship series for an Abbotsford Canucks team. Let's see what happens. They have won the opener in all 4 of their series to this point. They have never trailed in a series in these playoffs. They've never been down.
Crazy.
So getting a jump, easier said than done against the Charlotte team, but looking forward to it. Let's see what happens. Drop the puck, and away they go.
Yeah, it's a 4 p.m. face-off tonight in Charlotte, 4 p.m. for us in Charlotte. And, of course, that game is available free to stream off YouTube, X, Facebook, courtesy of Flow Hockey. And then Game 2 goes Sunday. That's a 1 p.m. puck drop from North Carolina.
You're going to have an audience that maybe has seen the game for the first time in a long time on a road game. So there's
that's terrific. And hopefully people will tune in and then check out Rinkwide as well. I'm not sure about the Father's Day Sunday afternoon up against the U.S. Open final round.
I was just going to say, I think somebody wanted to watch the U.S. Open and then cover the game. No JPat. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah,
until Monday.
All right, guys. Thanks.